Fighting is raging around three major cities in southern and western Afghanistan as the Taliban try to seize them from government forces. Militants have made rapid gains since it was announced that almost all foreign troops will leave the country by September. The UN Food Agency says several trucks carrying emergency aid to Tigray in northern Ethiopia have reached the regional capital, Mekelle. They were part of a convoy that got stuck for several weeks. The Australian city of Brisbane and other parts of southeast Queensland have been placed in a 3-day lockdown as the authorities try to contain the Delta variant of COVID-19. And at the Tokyo Olympics, it was a clean sweep for Jamaica in the women's 100 metres final, with Elaine Thompson-Herah taking the title, her second successive Olympic gold in the event.
Japan's Prime Minister announces an expanded coronavirus state of emergency that affects 4 more areas in addition to Tokyo. In the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte meets with the U.S. Defense Secretary as the country says it has fully restored a defense agreement with America. In Hong Kong, the first person found guilty under a recent national security law is sentenced to 9 years in jail on charges of inciting secession and terrorism. And the United Nations Children's Agency estimates 100,000 children in Ethiopia's Tigray area could suffer from hunger over the next year.
The pandemic and that alarming news from the CDC acknowledging that, quote, the war has changed because of the Delta variant. Officials now say it is as contagious as chickenpox, spreads faster than the common cold and seasonal flu, and that a vaccinated person who becomes infected can pass it on just as easily as someone who is not vaccinated. All eyes right now on Provincetown, Massachusetts, an outbreak of nearly 900 people, 74% of them were fully vaccinated, and we are there tonight. And the breakthrough cases on the Royal Caribbean cruise ship, 6 passengers testing positive, 4 of them fully vaccinated. Even still, the CDC is stressing that vaccines strongly protect against serious illness and death. Tonight, more than 190 million people have received at least 1 dose. That's 67% of everyone 12 and older. Dr. Jha is standing by, but ABC's Steve Osunsami leads us off at the CDC in Atlanta.
Public health officials are trying to warn Americans tonight that the fight against the coronavirus has changed dramatically after looking at the latest outbreaks around the world. They believe that this new Delta variant of the coronavirus can be more than 3 times as contagious as Ebola, bird flu, and the common cold. Just one person sick with the original strain of the disease could easily infect an average of 2 to 3 people in close contact. That number could now be up to 9 people with the Delta variant, according to the CDC.
I started to get a fever, and that's when I kind of knew, oh, this is it. This is COVID.
Johnny Chagnon is one of nearly 900 new cases of COVID-19 that came from what scientists believe is an outbreak of the new Delta variant in Provincetown, Massachusetts. He's a public health department employee from Vermont and says he and his friends were fully vaccinated.
We were partying, like I said, partying like it's 2019 and pretending like the pandemic never happened. I've heard of dozens or even more than 100 cases of people that I'm connected to personally who tested positive. Within my close circle of friends, there's about 10.
Authorities say that 90% of the people they've tested so far were sick with the Delta variant, and that about 74% of state residents who were infected were fully vaccinated. It's similar to the outbreak on this cruise ship in the Bahamas. 4 of the 6 people being flown home tonight were fully vaccinated. Our correspondent Trevor Ault is in Provincetown this evening, where face coverings are now required everywhere.
After the year we had, or the 18 months that we had, putting a mask back on or getting a shot in the arm, it's nothing. It's not a lot to ask.
It's not just Provincetown. On Broadway in New York City, you'll now need to be wearing a mask and show proof you've been vaccinated to see a show. But people aren't always loving the old rules returning.
We're not doing masks again in our family.
At this school board meeting in Florida, parents upset with wearing masks had to be shown the door.
Please escort him out.
It's ridiculous. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Today, America woke up to its highest number of daily new cases since early February, more than 86,000. More use of the vaccines will certainly help, and to that end, the federal government says it's working as fast as possible to get full FDA approval for the Pfizer vaccine. Some people refuse to get the shot without this. While leaving the White House tonight, the president was asked if Americans should expect to see more restrictions because of the increasing number of COVID-19 cases, and he responded, quote, "in all probability." Cecilia.
Okay, Steve, thank you.
We start on the track at the Tokyo Games, where Jamaican runners have taken all 3 medals in the women's 100-meter race in athletics. Elaine Thompson-Hira defended her gold and set an Olympic record in the process. Her time of 10.61 seconds broke a mark that had stood since 1988. Thompson-Hira also plans to compete in the 200-meter race. She won both events 5 years ago in Rio. She said after the race that she was grateful to be able to retain her title after her recent struggles with injury. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price took the silver with a time of 10.74 seconds. She now has a complete set of medals in the event, adding to a bronze from Rio and golds from Beijing and London. Sherika Jackson rounded out the podium, taking the bronze with a time of 10.76 seconds. Japan's Olympic judo campaign has come to a stunning end after it lost the gold medal match of the mixed team event. Fans had been hoping for Japan to finish with one last gold in what was the final judo event of the Games. It was also the sport's first ever mixed team competition at the Olympics. Japan's opponents in the final were European heavyweights France. Their team featured 2-time gold medalist Teddy Riner. Japan wasn't short on star power themselves, fielding a lineup that included gold medalists Arai Chizuru and Wolf Aron. But France cruised to a 4-1 victory, with Sone Akira recording the lone Japanese victory. Despite the disappointing result, Japan finishes the Games with 9 individual judo golds, its biggest haul ever. The event also featured a refugee team. It's the first time that refugee Olympians have taken part in a team competition in any sport. They lost to Germany in the first round. Javad Majob, originally from Iran, called the event a good experience and said he enjoyed competing on a team with people from around the world. Tokyo Olympics organizers have revoked accreditation for the first time. Sources say 2 judo medalists violated the rules for leaving the athletes' village to go sightseeing. The 2 male athletes from Georgia had won silver in individual events. The Tokyo Organizing Committee told reporters on Saturday that they had revoked the accreditation of at least one person involved in the Games, but didn't disclose further details. Athletes and other credential holders are required to follow the playbook rules, including anti-coronavirus guidelines. For 14 days after their arrival, they're allowed to leave their accommodations only to go to official Games venues and other limited locations. In the past, credential holders who disobeyed these rules were strictly warned or had their accreditation temporarily withdrawn. In the fight against the coronavirus, for the first time, the daily number of cases in Tokyo has topped 4,000. This comes after the central government announced it was extending a state of emergency in the capital until the end of August. The Tokyo Metropolitan Government says it confirmed a record 4,058 new infections on Saturday. That's about 700 more than on Friday. People in the city are feeling pessimistic about the record high figure.
Many people aren't wearing masks because it's hot. I don't think the figure will go down.
I think many young people think they won't get severely ill if they get infected.
Officials have been urging citizens to avoid non-essential outings, but still, in the middle of the Olympics, people have been rushing to catch a glimpse of athletes taking part in road races. Spectators are not allowed into most Olympic venues, but organizers have less control over crowd attendance at outdoor events. Near the National Stadium, crowds began queuing from the morning to take photos in front of the Olympic monument.
It's so crowded, more people than I expected. I'm going straight home.
A baseball game between Japan and Mexico was held at Yokohama Stadium in Kanagawa Prefecture. The prefecture is going to be under a state of emergency again starting Monday. The stadium is located close to a major tourist spot, Yokohama's Chinatown. The local government has asked all restaurants to close at 8 in the evening and to not serve alcohol. A restaurant owner expressed his disappointment.
I'm so frustrated. I know the games are being held just over there, but I'm so skeptical. I don't feel like cheering the athletes.
Meanwhile, on the medical front line, the situation in Tokyo is becoming increasingly worrisome. The occupancy rate for hospital beds set aside for patients with severe COVID symptoms has risen to 65%, while the positivity rate among tests conducted has hit 18%.
Patients are filling our beds rapidly. I'm concerned that some people may not get treatment or get tested, though they have symptoms like high fever.
Across the country on Saturday, more than 12,300 cases were confirmed. The infection toll has been rising nationwide. The figure hit 5 digits for the first time on Thursday. The 2021 World Conference Against Atomic and Hydrogen Bombs has started ahead of the 76th anniversary of the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Anti-nuclear groups gather at venues in Hiroshima and Nagasaki around August each year. This year, the World Conference has gotten underway in the northeastern Japanese city of Fukushima. The Japan Congress Against Atomic and Hydrogen Bombs added Fukushima to its venues after the 2011 nuclear disaster. The group has renewed its appeal to achieve a peaceful society free of nuclear plants, weapons, and war. The event was streamed online as the number of people who can attend in person this year is being limited to prevent the spread of coronavirus infections. The Japan Council Against Atomic and Hydrogen Bombs will start its meeting on Monday. Both anti-nuclear groups will stream many of their gatherings online. This year's World Conference is the first since the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons came into force in January this year. Japan, which falls under the U.S. nuclear umbrella, has not signed the nuclear treaty. During the conference, survivors of the atomic bombings will urge the Japanese government to sign the treaty as soon as possible. A digital entertainment expo showcasing the latest video games has opened in Shanghai. The China Digital Entertainment Expo and Conference kicked off on Friday. More than 500 companies are displaying their products at the event. Japan and the U.S. are among them. The Chinese video game market has continued to expand over the years. Analysts say it is now worth more than $36 billion. People formed long lines at the booth displaying Japanese goods. They were able to play a popular action game on Sony's PlayStation 5. The video game console has been in short supply in China since it was released in May. Products based on Japanese animated works are also on exhibit. Visitors at one booth can build plastic models of characters from the TV series Mobile Suit Gundam.
This is my first visit to an expo of this kind. Everything is new to me, and I'm very excited.
The event ends on Monday. Those were the stories for this hour.